It can ask things of you such as sex, and you have to give in because there's so many of them. I don't know many girls who haven't been raped. Whoever's top man in a gang will probably get you first. If a man likes a girl so much, he will make her his wifey. That means that she's not going to get passed around, but it doesn't mean at all she has any higher power. If they get bored, that's it, she'll get passed around again. This one guy just wouldn't leave me alone. He threatened to do all sorts of kind of stuff to my family and making me really frightened. He wouldn't let me go home. He told everyone, and I must have only been just 15. I'll never get over it.
I am a Safer London Youth Ambassador and support the Empower programme. Girls experiencing sexual violence and exploitation need specialist support, and the Empower programme helps them to become more resilient and able to cope. Over time, this can have a really positive impact on their lives.
Empower places young women at the heart of everything we do. We never lose sight of the fact that we're here to support young women to live free from violence. The complexity of this issue means that we have a multi-strand approach to our programme, one strand of which is the intensive one-to-one support work. Young women who work with our programme often have a number of complex vulnerabilities. They're often missing from home, living in chaotic family situations, dealing with crime and living in gang-affected areas. Young women tell us that sexual violence and exploitation is really commonplace in their relationships. So we work in partnership with different services across London, including youth offending teams, children's social care, police, schools and sexual health clinics. But also we have a lot of referrals now from young women who are referring their own friends because they know firsthand the benefits of Empower support. We know also that it's really important that young people have a safe space to talk about things like healthy relationships, self-esteem and consent. So we deliver a preventative group work program in schools.
Okay, so following on from last week when we were talking about relationships, this week we're going to talk about consent. Does anybody know what consent means?
The kind of topics that we cover in the group work are things like healthy relationships, about young women's self-esteem and confidence, sex and the law. So we're going to quite detail about the definition of consent. I think it's really important to talk about consent because they haven't had that open conversation about it before with adults, so you can immediately see that in the group work.
Each year we realise just how powerful having the teacher-free spaces for these girls, so that they can share feelings, they can talk about relationships, keeping safe. They talk about the pressure of social media. They talk about some of the things, some of the risky behaviours that they probably do when they're away from school, sharing pictures online. It's a teacher-free space, but it's also a male-free space. So they work with the women from Safer London, and they're all girls talking with women. So, and they feel better able to talk about those settings without having a male figure around. Over the 10 weeks, it's amazing to see how some of these kids flourish and develop and become more empowered, and how their expectations from others are almost raised, for example. So they're less, I think, less tolerant of low expectation, of people not expecting a lot from them. So you see that even in their relationship with their peers, they're so much more confident.
I have been thinking about my friends and whether they are healthy relationships.
You're safe to talk about things that you wouldn't normally talk about.
Lots of advice, and they show you the consequences of what you do before you do it.
I'm being more good in class and more focused.
I'm keeping more safe online and have deleted all of my pictures.
I said no to a situation with my boyfriend. I didn't want to do something and he was trying to persuade me and I said no.
I feel more open to people in expressing my feelings.
The thing that stayed with me is the right to say no or yes whenever you want.
I now know about consent and what makes a healthy relationship.
Taught me I can be anything in life and about liking myself and confidence.
It's important to do group work with young men, as young men and young women coexist in the same community. So if we're working with young women, we need to work with young men as well, because we don't want to have young women socialising with young men who are carrying harmful attitudes. Young men are primarily influenced by their community, so immediately their families. With a lot of the young men we work with are coming from single parent households, so no father figure. They're going to look elsewhere for that father figure or their role models, which most of the times are going to come from the media, from hip hop music that they listen to, local gangs or gang culture that kind of ripples down and affects young men that are just gang affected rather than gang involved. I think the boys just enjoy that brotherhood of being in the group. Even over the 10 weeks, even though it goes very quickly, they actually really grow. And so after the group sessions, every week they go out telling their friends what they spoke about in class, and others are quite envious and would like to do the program as well.
It gives you another stage in your life. What the law says, and if you're in a relationship, giving consent. And like, don't be in gangs, because it's a bad life. It's a dangerous life.
Trust me, this would help you know the difference between right and wrong.
I didn't know what consent was before, and they told me how to be safe. And if a girl says no, she says no. And you can't force her, because that's rape.
The Empower program helped me look at society in a different way and my view on women.
I'm staying away from gangs, going to different areas.
We get to understand about life and how to control yourself on the street.
Teaches you to be careful and treat girls right.
I volunteer as a youth ambassador for Safer London Foundation, mainly because my passion lies in working with young people, especially those within a gang context, and giving them a better outlook on life. Part of the work that I do is working with the Empower program, and we deliver professionals training to those in social care, education, probation, police, and any other people that might come into contact with young women. Part of the training sessions we talk about CSE, which is child sexual exploitation within a gang context, and sort of highlighting the indicators and the risks of sexual exploitation. The feedback that we get from these sessions is that professionals leave feeling more confident and more empowered to respond adequately when a young woman comes to them, talking to them about a situation that they might be facing. Personally, I feel like this work is very important, and it is essential because there are young women that are suffering silently, and we can make a big difference in their lives by doing this.
I went into care because the reason I went into a gang was because my parents wasn't capable of looking after me. So I relied on these people to give me a bit of attention. I gradually made new friends in other areas, friends at school, and the gang would never even noticed I was gone. After a while, I became happy in myself and I gained confidence, and I had people who cared about me, such as my foster carer, and that's what stopped me from being in a gang.
We run workshops for parents and carers to raise awareness about sexual exploitation in gangs, to help them feel more comfortable in opening up conversations with young people about these really important issues. We support them to recognise the signs that a young woman might be being sexually exploited and where they can go to get support.
Every young woman associated with a gang member is at risk. Their girlfriend, their sisters, their friends, they're all likely to experience sexual violence. This is such a big issue. We have to raise awareness of what is going on and tackle it. Services must work together so these vulnerable young women get the support they deserve and they need.